Hope all of you having a good time and life around you is recovering fast from COVID impact. There's Nabeel Siddiqi with you, and I welcome you to Simple Talk. For those who are watching Simple Talk for the first time, this talk is about technology, business trends, products, solutions in the most unbiased way. The intent is not to give any advice or suggestion. However, the intent is to share our views in the most simplest way. Hence, it's a simple talk. When we talk about business growth, there are three top areas where an organization must focus to have growth and value creation. Number one is product leadership. Amazing example we have all in front of us. Apple. You can count the products on fingers, $2 trillion company now. Number two is operational excellence. Go back in a couple of decades back, Dell came in with the innovative concept of just-in-time inventory. Fantastic job, they were successful. And the third one is, which is very important in my opinion, and I like it the most, is customer intimacy. At the same time, when we talk about customer intimacy, let's not miss out to mention a note for all the young super startup founders. When we talk about this topic, they have to focus on market fit, customer acquisition, forcing your customer needs, gain a few repeated customers, and you break the ice with the investors. So let's just start our discussion. My panelists are, let me introduce first our special guest for today, Somair Feroz. He's a seasoned technology strategist with extensive experience helping organizations find solutions to strategic problems. He leads currently the PMO of a leading customer experience outsourcer based in Washington, D.C. I love that, by the way. That is specialized in providing powerful customer engagement and insight to their clients. He lives and based in Washington. My next panelist is Nauman Afsar. He's managing and orchestrating growth across MEA region for different vendors. Nauman is in a leadership role as a regional vice president for a global software vendor and leading the way of customers on their journey to cloud. Last but not the least, I have Mr. Hamad Ahmed. He has been leading many digital transformation consultancies in the area of unified communication and collaborative practice in MEA region. He is based and lives in Dubai. So today, our topic, I will start with Somair. I love the domain you are engaged in, Somair, which is customer experience. Sounds very, very attractive and very interesting to know more about it. So tell us something, why customer intimacy is important, in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, so customer intimacy, if we look at historically, there has always been this talk about understanding your customers and kind of focusing on your customers. The conversations have been very, while the need for knowing your customers has been there, but the conversation has usually been about being very transactional, right? So where companies have know that they have a need for knowing their customers, but you can't really get growth in your products if you're not using the tools and methods required, which is what customer intimacy provides. So if I were to define it quickly, customer intimacy is a measurement of the organization's alignment to the customer's needs. And customer's need is super important for it to stay relevant in today's competitive market. Because with the amount of competition that we have, I mean, this was always the case, but as we have become more digitalized, right? The amount of competition that we have, you have in the market requires, it's almost essential for you to stay and for you to grow. You need to be very close to the customer, understand your customer, and have customer at the center of your processes and policies to be able to survive.
Yes, I mean, customer has to be centric, so that's the best policy. And we all know that customer acquisition is very costly. If we talk about the corporate environment, sometimes it costs even more than $1 million to acquire a customer. So retention, and it's very important. So Nauman, you're covering a large territory with different cultures. How do you think customer intimacy is very important?
Yeah, thanks, Nabeel. Thanks for having. Great question because us all the people on the call right now are customer-facing people. We interact with customers, we face customers, we talk to customers, and we talk about customer intimacy. The word intimacy, I think, speaks it all, right? It's about how close you are to your customer, how well you know your customer, at the same time, how well the customer knows you. So it is a two-way transaction between the customer knowing you very well and you understanding. So, I mean, a lot of times when we know when we connect to portals or different places, or we have to do a KYC, know your customer form, and we give our own details, right? That's one aspect of grabbing the data, and then you get the data, and then you use that. But at the same time, what's really important is how you're using the data, how much information what you're getting from your customer, you're analyzing, and then at the same time, you are creating your services and you're offering in line with that information. You mentioned about multicultural aspect, and yes,
Yeah.
I mean, Middle East, Africa, and Turkey and Pakistan are very distinct territories, right? You look at Gulf,
Mm.
a market that is emerging. Africa is another market on the growth side, and Pakistan is an emerging side as well. And then Turkey, which is sort of on the fine lines of Europe and the growth aspect over there as well. Now, what's really important for us is to then we have to break our mindsets as a vendor. When interacting with customers, you need to segment your thought process as per the territorial customers. So you could have a absolutely different aspect when you're talking about customer intimacy to someone in Africa versus someone in Turkey, because the priorities will be different of the customers in every country. So you need to realign your priorities with what the customer expectations are. Hence, you can then address and hit a larger multicultural region as well.
So yes, I mean, customer intimacy and multicultural environment needs to be carefully evaluated. So Hamad, I mean, you are providing consultancies services to many large organizations in the region on collaborative solutions. So how do you face your customers, and what is your opinion about it?
I just second what Nauman and said, that customer intimacy is beyond talking to customer. It's about a two-way connection, as Nauman was saying. And their perspective matters actually. Their perception matters actually. And it's not that you just talk to the customer and you know the customer. Currently, it's important because the business and the solutions are provided by many of the vendors. It's your insight and it's customer intimacy, how you develop your solution, make your customers first, then you can win the businesses. And that's what the trend is now. There are many, we had a session about collaboration tools, and there are many tools. But when you develop a certain tool, or when you mold a tool and keeping your customer in mind, then you can win businesses and then you can develop the business. Especially in this region, it's a unique region. Customer has its own demand. Yeah, you cannot take a solution of European market and deploy it in Middle East. You need to work with customer to develop a solution, and that's what for me customer intimacy is.
So, I mean, customers' intimacy is important. So, I will pass back, Ahmed, you the second question, that what strategies do you use to develop customer intimacy?
Very good question. So I can tell you the large organizations have their own tools. Yeah, completely. As Somair was saying, I've been working with large organizations, and most of the organizations are basically develop their product by taking a feedback from the customer. And they have developed processes, not only a tool, but a process. So you follow that process and develop those applications. That's very important, not only to satisfy the customer, but also to build the large business. And that's what the goal of the business is.
So customer satisfaction is really very important. So Somair, I mean, you are into customer experience business. I mean, what are the current trends in developing customer intimacy? So please tell us something about it.
So when it comes to, and I think you're more leaning towards how, right? So when it comes to what is required for an organization to be more intimate to the customer, there really, I mean, broadly speaking, there are the three main areas. One is the ability of the organization to have insight into what the customer wants. And there's several ways of doing that. You have automated ways, as Hamad was mentioning, right? Automated ways in which you can, within, if you're a software tool, right? So within your software, have sort of monitoring in place so that you can measure where you can monitor the customer's behavior over the application or website. That's one way. There are other ways in which you can again get insights. So that you could have direct interaction with customers via events or via interviews. But I think the first part is collecting the data or the information required. When you have insight on that, then comes again to Ahmad's point, segmentation of those customers, right? So now that you understand the individual requirements of your customers, you have deeper knowledge, and so you're not going to use a broad brush customers. You'll tailor it for the customer's needs as you came to know from your insights. And most importantly, while you're doing this, you're aligning your organization and the processes so that they're always keeping the customer at the center. I mean, organizations have used several tips and techniques, like some, for example, I believe it's Amazon that kind of keeps an empty chair to kind of keep a reminder of the customer being there. Some have these customer boards, so they have their most loyal customers as part of an advisory board. But in essence, what they're then doing is the most importantly is making sure that their organizational processes and policies are, and the whole culture surrounds around getting to know and giving the best back to the customer.
So very well said. Human point, which is cultural, organizational cultural, pretty much motivated and inbuilt towards customer intimacy is very important. At the same time, while I will move to the next question with Nauman. So customer intimacy is important, proximity is important, but too much proximity with a customer can be risky as well. So there has to be a balance strike in between. So Nauman, can you please tell us how do we maintain customer intimacy, and do you think it is easier or it's a difficult task?
I think. Look, yes and no. So, and I'll say why. Because what's really core is the flexibility in the approach you have towards your customers, the operational excellence, how efficient you are when you're trying to conduct that flexibility, and at the same time, product leadership as well. So these three things are going to be very important when you're trying to maintain that customer intimacy level with your customers. Now, you could basically, want to promise everything to your customer, but if you're not flexible in what you have to offer, then the customer intimacy goes absolutely in the opposite direction, right? Then you would have a very unhappy customer. To maintain that happiness within the customer, to get that intimacy level higher, you need to understand, again, coming back to the initial, all the points we mentioned, that we need to have, once we understand what the customer requirements are, we need to make sure we have the flexibility to offer that product, those offerings in line with that. At the same time, empowerment of the team, of the people around you. They need to be able to go and make decisions. They need to have the right tools to do that. And then at the same, again, all of us are in business because of customers, right? So and the famous saying, customer is right. Sometimes they're not, but they are right? So we need to circle ourselves around that, and then offer that with the flexible approach. And I'm sure then it will be easier than we expect it could be.
Yeah, I mean, the 80-20 rule is a famous rule that you get 80% of your revenue from 20% of the customers. So retention is very important, maintaining customer intimacy. So Hamad, I mean, what are your inputs about it?
I agree and disagree. So agree on the part that yes, you can maintain if you have very, very good processes. You can maintain customer, but it's very difficult, very, very difficult to maintain the customer intimacy. Why is that? The reason is very simple, that it's human nature. Yeah. You provide services to a customer, they are very happy. You make one mistake and customer is unhappy. You're gone. It's very difficult. If you don't have processes, you don't have cabs with the customer, you don't have processes where you sit with the customer, review your progress, review, and not only review, be very blunt. I have seen in my 21 years of experience that if you're honest with the customer, then it's very easy to maintain the customer. But if you are not honest, that means you make promises. We'll do this, we'll do that, we'll provide you that services. Then it's very difficult. In my opinion, we call it a customer advisor, trusted advisor. Yeah, now I got it. Yeah, it's trusted advisor. You are working for a company as a vendor, but customer is trusting you as a trusted advisor. Then only you can success. Otherwise, it is difficult task to maintain customer intimacy.
So honesty, regular follow-up, no overcommitments, transparency are very important. And yes, Hamad, as you said, it reminds me of when IBM was a big name in 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they used to be ahead of customer to understand customer's problem, and they were the trusted advisors, and that's where the company grew in exponential figures over a period, year-on-year growth. So these are very fantastic examples where we can learn the lessons and see our weaknesses. So coming back to you, Somair, how do you think that the best way to maintain customer intimacy and it's easier and achievable?
Well, so one thing I'll agree with Hamad is it's not easy. I mean, and it's because it's a value which has to exist in your organization's, I would say, DNA. And till the time it's not that inherent, till the time every employee understands and is aligned to that value, you will stumble at some point. So, but so to start, it's not easy. But I think a starting point always is just to ensure that you at least have all the resources. So you have the organizational the management of or the leadership of the organization. It at least understands and truly considers customer intimacy to be their biggest value. That will enable a closer and an honest relationship with the customer. Then yeah, the path will get smoother.
So one thing I can see in all the three responses for the last question, everybody stated to maintain customer intimacy is very difficult. So I can see all of us are facing very challenging customers. This is how the world is. Every difficulty brings new opportunities, and that's how the life goes on and on. So we will end our discussion here. The best thing is that whatever we do, we have to make sure that we contribute towards the human development, we contribute towards the society, and as long as we are touching the soft values, it will always remain easier than difficult to maintain customer relationship. My big thank to my panelists, and great thanks to audience for watching and listening to us. Don't forget to like our channel and share your comments and views. Thank you very much.